Chaea is a land which, in revealing its true identity to the traveller, will continuously test his resilience and intensify the eagerness of his expectations, his thirst for the unknown. The island reveals itself slowly, with gradual pleasant surprises. Its beauties are not only about impressive images. Such imposing lands require an open eye, a desire for exploration, and a lot of hiking. The network of cultural interest routes of Chaea, or Tzia as the locals call it, includes the ancient paved roads and access paths to the scattered villages, the springs and outcrops, the places of worship and the beaches. The traveller is facilitated in his explorations by detailed maps. There are small red and white signs along the paths with the number of each route. Number 1, for example, is the Leon route. Number 2, the Alexis Route. And number 3, the Aristeos route. There are also wooden signs placed at crucial points, which mark out the course of the paths and the hiking time remaining until each destination is reached. A short distance from busy Attica, the traveller finds Chaea to be a place which is not revealed at first glance. This island's secret magic is only alluded to. The deep, contrasting relief of tree-lined vegetation, unusual for Cycladic islands, which characterizes the mountainous slate deposits, prepares us for the particular interest of hiking through Chaea's inland. Route number 1, Leon. Iulida, Leon, Dosonari, or Chias. Iulida, Chaea's capital, is the starting point for a scenic path that takes us to the Exo Canali region. The route is enchanting. Everywhere, left and right, poppies run riot. It is like walking on a red carpet. The purple mallows are also strong contenders for a place in this interesting landscape. The hiker's glance is taken by the well-cared-for orchards with almond and walnut trees. Soon we reach the fountain of Exo Canali. The fountain's little structure is painted in pop art colours: white, turquoise, orange, deep blue. Next to the fountain are the basins where the housewives of Tzia wash their clothes in the running water. An adjacent path takes us to the famous fountain of Kourentis, with its refreshing waters. A popular singer writes these melancholy verses: "The white legs I saw at the fountain of Kourentis, the maiden goes for water to fill her pitcher. When I see her coming to the fountain of Kourentis, with the pitcher on her shoulder, I cry and wither." We return to our central path. We soon encounter another cold water spring at Exo Canali. As we ascend the stone path, we reach the cemetery, where we find the road that goes through Iulida, and then continue on our course towards Leondas, as the islands call it. The archaic lion is discernible from a distance. We may stop here shortly to photograph this sculpted monument. Lion of Kea, is the island's trademark. We soon reach a fountain with drinking troughs for the animals. The engraved sign informs us that it was constructed in 1928, commissioned by the mayor Petros Lepouras. We leave the lion, which gazes leisurely at you, Lida, and hasten our step towards the fountain of Benjamin. A large plane tree, old as the hills, shades the square and its neoclassical fountain. On either side are a series of drinking troughs for animals. Rings have been embedded into a small stone wall on the opposite side for villagers to tie up their animals. The festivals that took place here years ago were very famous. We pick up our pace. At some point the path forks out. Be careful not to take the wrong path. On the right there is a sign with the number 10 on it. The wooden sign informs us that the road leads to the beautiful Spathi beach. We turn left on path number 1. We walk towards Dosonari. Throughout the path, the blossoming spartiums intoxicate us with their scent. This path could also be named the road with the royal oak trees. We proceed towards Tzia through Campi. Here in Campi, the Xotarides, the villagers that reside in the countryside, grow various vegetables, including potatoes. We are now headed towards Kokini. The path is narrow and winding. On our left, the stream is full of oleanders. The variety of the landscape and the wild flowers continuously surprise us. From afar, we eventually see our final destination, the quaint bay of Tzia with its beautiful sandy beach. We finally reach Tzia, one of the most visited areas of Kea. At the end of the path, depending on the season, we can taste a couple of figs or fresh almonds from the almond trees. little church of Aios Georgios gazes outwards over the blue sea with its clear waters. Remnants of a port installation from the classical and Hellenistic periods have been discovered at the Bay of Otias. It is likely that in antiquity, Otias was the port of Eulida. A perfect end for the Leon-Otias route would be a cooling swim in the blue waters and an ouzo on the beach. Route number 2, Elixos. Eulida, Milopotamos, Flea. The Elixos route recalls the ancient river of the same name. Its gurgling waters cross the Milopotamos area, with its estuary in ancient Tzia. We start our trek at the Milopotamos stream. On our left, we notice the ancient retaining walls of the terraced fields, installed for keeping back the rainwater. The distant past is harmoniously combined with modern times. The element of water is distinct throughout our course. The running waters of the springs accompany us on our route to the water mills. The walker here encounters those wonderful fig trees, which are known as abucomies in the local dialect, and their early, sweet figs are called arbocunes. We reach the watermills, an excellent example of pre-industrial Greek architecture. The miller's home and the watermill were a single building complex. The plentiful waters of Milopotamos filled the miller's round tanks, the varadia. The water fell with force on the water wheel and set in motion the mechanism for the grinding of wheat and barley. The ground here is specially fertile. Vegetable patches grow truly organic plants. take the path that leads to Idrousa Flea. The surprises follow one after another. Small waterfalls, strong streams with rich vegetation of hydrophilic plants, composing a picture of a heaven on earth. The waters of Flea sparkle under the sunbeams in fantastic iridescence. We pass dreamy Flea to start on the stone path that leads to Aios Konstantinos. We leave behind the chapel of Aii Apostoli. The path was restored by a multinational group of young people who volunteered their valuable work. Oak trees grow on either side. The soft rustle of their foliage is like whispering in our ears. Our sense of smell, however, is also pleased by the delicate fragrance of the blossoming spartiums. Our trek on the paved path that leads to Ulida is comfortable. An opportunity for some pictures. The little donkey poses with a hint of vanity for our lens, but the cows appear more shy. A typical agricultural door, which the locals call Marcellini. We can see Aios Konstantinos from a distance. We are slowly approaching. A spring with cool water awaits us at the church's entrance. A folk poet here criticized himself. At Aios Konstantinos the cross I worshipped, and was very sorry, you I never kissed. Night has started to fall. The following day a new exploration awaits us. The route which is symbolically named Aristeos. Route number 3, Aristeos. Ulida, Προφήτης Ηλίας, Ελληνικά, Άγιος Σημείων, Carthea. The route was named Aristeos for the mythical hero of Chaea, Aristeos, the protector of agriculture and apiculture. This is the longest route of the network, and it crosses the heart of the island. The trek is amazing here too, filled with tall yellow umbrella-like flowers. The path is negotiable, paved with stones, the work of skilled craftsmen. Its wide stones are held in place at intervals by other vertical stones. The vegetation is imposing here as well. The yellow background is strewn with purple mallows and dozens of other wild flowers. Almond trees are cultivated on the hillsides, together with citrus trees and other fruit-bearing trees. What is really impressive in the inland of Chaea are the thousands of royal oaks, which form dense forests at certain points, Nowhere in the Cycladic Islands do we see a similar phenomenon of such extensive indigenous growth of trees. Acorns, whose yield in the mid-20th century exceeded 40,000 centels, are no longer tradable. The time has long passed when the islanders took the path to Campi, or the road to Livadi, to load up hamada, the acorn caps, valuable for use in tanneries. From there they were transported to the loading storehouses, destined for the tanneries of Mytilene, Chios, and Syros. The blooming spartiums release their scent throughout our walk. The municipality of Kea organises the famous storytelling festivals during the summer evenings along the paths of Kea. On this idyllic path, legends, myths and stories from all over the world come to life thanks to the narrative skills of the storytellers. This is an innovative form of alternative tourism, attracting locals and visitors alike. We continue on our journey with the hill of Prophetis Elias and the oak tree forest on our right. We proceed, leaving behind the chapel of Aia Fotini. Shortly afterwards we find in Mikra Elinika the Taxiarchias church, which has a built-in spring with the necessary basins for the laundry. We then come to Megala Elinika and the chapel of Ai Anagiri, near a large spring with running water, decorated with ancient building materials. In the past, but even up to the present day, great feasts took place here, during which a great deal of meat was consumed. In the rural inland of Kea, we find many small threshing floors, a fact which proves that this place was once abundant with life, with the grinding of wheat and barley. At the end of the path, we encounter a traditional agricultural residence. This is a stavlos, as it is called in the local idiom, with all functional buildings for agricultural tasks. Naturally, the lady of the house plants flowers and herbs in her zinc pots. The long trek on the Aristeos route will produce a sweet tiredness. And surprise, Dimitris and Maria invite us into their yard, under the shade of a fig tree, to drink raki together, accompanied by dried figs and other delicacies. The journey to Aios Simeon and Carthea pauses here, on the path of Ai Simios. The route continues on the ancient road to Carthea. It also meets Route 8, Syrios, towards Aios Philippos. Route 6, Hatzidio, Carthea. The archaeological site of Carthea is the destination reached from the four paths: the path from Ai Simios, the path from Katomera, the path from Havuna, and finally the path from Hatzidio or Halkidio, which we will now take as it follows the course of the small river Potamus. At the beginning of the stone path, we encounter an ancient tower, a lookout in the Hellenistic period, which controlled the passage from Carthea to Piesa. The trek on this path is a unique experience. Left and right, nature runs riot. Everything has a celebratory feeling, with the fragrant sages, maples, and thyme dominating the scenery. Reddish bushes grow everywhere near the Bottomless stream, bringing to mind Impressionist paintings. The colours of the plants interweave with one another and create images that seem to come from dreams. On the left, on the hills of Aspri Vigla, the terrain takes on geometric shapes from the graded terracing which the villagers built with slate, so that the ground could be retained from the violent power of the rain. A small detour to the left leads to the Bottomless fountain with its crystal clear water, where the traveller may rest briefly. The waters sparkle in the sunshine that slits through the foliage of the water-loving trees. The gurgling waters have, through the centuries, carved out the large boulders, forming an impressive sculptural composition. Back on the central path to Carthea. About halfway along on our right stands the Ancient Aqueduct. This structure provided water to ancient Carthea. When the path turns, we can see the fields which are, even today, kept in good condition by the farmers, who grow vegetables and fruit trees, mainly citrus, as well as loquat trees with their juicy fruit. The path now enters the stream of Potamus. Walking becomes somewhat difficult because the riverbed is full of rounded pebbles. These rocks have been smoothed by the river's water. The environment exercises an indescribable charm. Tall, thin bushes create arches, producing cool shade for the hiker to walk under. Osiers, similar to the willow, dominate the vegetation. There is a local folk saying that goes, "If you do not catch an osier, you will lose your loved one." Hints of pink stand out in the deep green of the path with the blossoming oleanders, and we pick up our pace. Eventually the path finds a clearing, and on our left, the terrace of the temple of Athena in Carthea appears. However, before we start on our archaeological tour, we must rest, take a drink of water, and perhaps eat some dry food in the small courtyard of the church on the beach. This church is called Banayer Ton Polo. With our strength renewed, we take the path to the archaic temple of Pythian Apollo. The statue of the god stood in a niche carved in the rock. The interventions and enhancements of the archaeological service leave us with the best impressions. Gravel has been laid on the temple's floor, which protects the monument, while setting off all its surviving elements to advantage. The landscape emerges as a magical image. In front of us the sea with the little island, which in antiquity was connected to the pier of the port of Carthage. In the background, we can see the path that leads to Aios Simeon, and further away the chapel of Mirtidiotissa. The Temple of Athena is next, after the Temple of Apollo. This sanctuary has also been renovated. These columns are representations made of porous stone. They have been placed where the ancient columns used to stand, as these were eroded as time passed. Special restorative renovations were conducted on the retaining wall of the Temple of Athena. The visitor is left wondering what kind of technical means could have been used to construct these boulders in antiquity. There is also an ancient theatre here. In 1811, Danish traveller Brodshed came to ancient Carthage and conducted excavations at the Temple of Apollo. He brought to light 3 bodies of female statues, 2 of which he identified as Hygeia and Nemesis. He found many inscriptions, vases, figurines, oil lamps and coins. Any finds that could be moved were loaded on the English sailboat Bella Nina from Malta. Their fate is henceforth unknown. Pindar wrote about this island city in his 4th paean. Carthage is a dry rock, but I would not change it for Babylon herself. So here, on this dry rock, we conclude our journey on the paths of care. This was a trek resembling a fairy tale, a cultural journey with unique experiences, thousands of surprises, and great moments.